What's going on, everyone? I'm Mike Murtis, and today we are going to be talking about my review of the Midwest Gaming Classic 2018 for the first time in Milwaukee at the Wisconsin Center. So as of this year, I've been going to the Midwest Gaming Classic for 10 years. I started going in 2008, and while I don't quite remember what venue it was in 2008, I do remember what venue it was at after that, and that was the Sheridan in Brookfield, Wisconsin. And while I love that venue, going back and forth between the entire hotel, it's really easy to take your stuff to the car, it's really easy to take stuff to your room, it was very obvious last year that they really reached capacity as far as what they could do with the Midwest Gaming Classic. I mean, come on, they put a giant tent out in the outside just so they could handle the amount of traffic and the amount of vendors they had, and it still wasn't enough. You really started feeling like you were in a Walking Dead episode. It was a pain to get from one place to another. The arcade room was crammed. There just wasn't a lot of space. So the founders realized this, and they knew it was time to upgrade to the next level, and that next level was the Wisconsin Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, this was the first time that I had ever been in the Milwaukee Center, so kind of neat. I don't really have anything to base this on, and you really just get that full feeling of, wow, this place is huge walking into it. And it definitely paid dividends for the Midwest Gaming Classic in terms of just raw space. So we'll talk about my start of getting into the actual show and work our way from the third floor and down to the second floor, which both the Midwest Gaming Classic housed floor-wise. And let's start with just getting in. And I will tell you, one of the massive improvements of the fact that they were at the Milwaukee Center was the pre-order line. A lot of times at the Sheridan, you would get into line, you weren't sure what was the right line, you weren't sure if you were supposed to get your tickets from this line. The pre-order line would sometimes take too long. Honestly, it was usually a mess every year, and those guys really put up with a lot of stuff, so I'm not trying to give them a hard time, but that's just my experience from what I've experienced myself, friends have experienced, as well as just listening to people. This year, though, it was super easy. Get in the Wisconsin Center, go to the second floor, get your pre-order ticket, go up the escalator, you're in. You're good to go. Super simple, and I think a lot of people who didn't pre-order their tickets really realize they should. So if Midwest Gaming Classic is back next year and it's at the Wisconsin Center, I highly recommend you pre-order your tickets, even if it's just for Saturday. It makes it super easy. You get in an hour early. It's way, way worth it. So getting in on the third floor, that housed two different sections of the Midwest Gaming Classic. The first being the vendor hall that was located at one end of the third floor. Man, talk about a great benefit of space. No longer were you trying to sidestep and move around and do the slow shuffle to one table to another. There was so much space in between the aisles. It was fantastic. Stuff was really spread out with enough space, and you could really differentiate between the tables instead of just kind of getting lost within the vendor tent like you would. This year, because of the space, I can definitely say I was able to take the most time in the vendor hall and actually look at the goods, look at prices, dig through stuff, because there was just that much space and I didn't feel like I was being smothered with people. So a huge positive there. Now, with the fact that they had this space, they were able to take advantage of it in two other ways. One was there was food. You could actually get food from a couple different food vendors there. They had a smoothie place, a popcorn place, a pizza place, and a burger place that's just kind of built into the Wisconsin Center. The pizza place was not good. Ian's Pizza, probably the worst pizza I've ever had. They heated it up for me. They served it to me. It was like $6. You could taste nothing but crust and oil. Totally gross. I know I'm not the only one who felt that way. A lot of people were like, man, that pizza was just disgusting. Jersey Mike's, the sub place was there, but they were actually outside of the vendor hall, kind of on just the general area of the third floor, a little step up from everything else there. The other thing the vendor hall featured was the stage. The cosplay show was there, and a bunch of different musical acts were there. And because of the way the Wisconsin Center is shaped, And because of the way of the ceilings and everything else, in the past at the Brookfield venue, it was so loud sometimes, you really couldn't hear your friends, you really couldn't deal well with the vendors because you had the music blaring. They had it set up perfectly this time, where the music was just at a perfect level. It was loud, but not too loud, not too soft. It just fit very well within the whole audio scope of everything, and it was pleasant to listen to. I don't know if the mixers just had everyone dialed down, or if it was just the Wisconsin Center, but it was perfect. Whatever Midwest Gaming Classic did this year for the stage, totally perfect. Definitely made the vendor hall that much more cooler. They had the cosplay show at the end of the night on Saturday, which a lot of people enjoyed. They had a really decent turnout for. Very, very cool. And of course, it's great seeing vendors there, both new and old. Lots of new vendors this year, and a lot of them had very positive things to say about the experience overall of the Midwest Gaming Classic. So let's go on to the next section of floor 3, and that is the arcade hall as well as the Classic Gaming Museum. Now typically at the Brookfield, this was separate locations. You had the arcade hall in one side of the hotel, and then you kind of had to loop around and go into another section to get the Classic Console Museum. And there was always a slew of other consoles kind of outside the hallways of the hotel. Now it is in one place, and it is huge. There was so much space. The games were spaced out so well. You had enough room to get in between people, walk down the aisles, and if you wanted to play pinball, you could. If you wanted to play arcade games, you could. You wanted to sit down and play a shoot 'em up. If you wanted to play a gun gallery game, whatever you wanted to do, you could all do it from the comfort of one room, which meant if you had a group of people and you all wanted to play different stuff, you're still within the same area. So that was awesome. It sounded great. It wasn't too loud except when all the Iron Maiden machines were being played. The volume was way up for that, but I actually really liked that pinball machine. So that was a plus to Stern Pinball there. But all in all, the third floor was very well put together. Give my hats off to the venue as well as the guys who put together the Midwest Gaming Classic, because the third floor was just fantastic. So going down to the second floor, we had a slew of different kind of mini rooms that you could walk through at the Midwest Gaming Classic. And again, at the Sheraton, these rooms were cramped because usually there were actual hotel rooms that the visitors just converted into these different rooms. Like you have the Guys, Games and Beer, I believe it is. You had the indie booth. You had the Underdog room, which had like Steel Battalion and other stuff hooked up. There was a pinball room in there. You had Star World's Arcade. You had, I think it was Pixel Blast Arcade. You had a bunch of stuff in there. And this was all on the second floor. It was, again, easy to get to, easy to walk through, easy to experience everything. And the premium in space was just a blessing. Really, really had a fun time in all those different rooms. Unfortunately, I didn't capture any footage from that place other than a couple iPhone videos. And honestly, the videos you've seen of me walking through the arcade and game hall, that was also shot with my iPhone. Didn't bring my camera equipment inside just because we were dealing with a massive winter storm and I didn't have easy access to my car. But overall, as far as the layout goes, as far as the space goes, it was fantastic and really where Midwest Gaming Classic needs to be in terms of space. Now, does that mean they need to choose the Wisconsin Center? Not really. They could go to any place with that kind of space, and I think it would work out very well for them. So let's talk about some of my cons of the new venue of Midwest Gaming Classic before we get into what everyone probably wants to see, and that's the pickups. The cons of the Midwest Gaming Classic, and this is a very personal con for me, is that it is in Milwaukee. And I have nothing against the city of Milwaukee. I have nothing against the people. I have nothing against the food. The city of Milwaukee drives me nuts because of its highway and road system it has. I have worked in the Milwaukee area and a good part of that Wisconsin area for a number of years when I was working for a ready mix company. and I totally dreaded going there for the simple fact that there was a ton of construction on the roads. Ramps would be closed, lanes would be closed. It was just always a huge pain in the ass to get to, and it never fails. There's a ramp closed and there's one you can take right next off to it, and your GPS fails to tell you, and you're stuck in a 20-minute loop trying to get where you were needing to get to in the first place. So I can't stand that. If there's anything that really gives me some pressure or anxiety, that would be it, because it's just crazy. And this year, that was absolutely amplified because we've had a freak winter storm the last 4 days that had snow, sleet, rain, freezing rain. Anything terrible that can come out of the sky has pretty much came out. And Sunday, trying to leave the Midwest Gaming Classic in those conditions from Milwaukee was horrible. Easily the worst drive I have ever done in my 20 years or more of driving. It was scary as hell, and it doesn't help that there's all these closures for the ramps and everything for the city of Milwaukee. Now, does Midwest Gaming Classic have anything to do with that? No, it just happens to be that where they're at, that's how the roadways are. But if travel bothers you, if it gives you any sort of anxiety like it does for me in those particular city areas, just be aware of it, be careful, maybe have someone else drive, and hopefully they don't have the freak winter storm, because I think I would have been a lot more calmer if I wasn't worried about what the hell was going on outside, and it wasn't fun. The second con, and it's one you can get over if you don't mind moving around a lot, and that is the fact that because it is now at a convention center, the ease of buying a game, buying a big system, buying something in a big box is pretty much gone. I mean, at the Sheraton, you could do something, pick up something, go to your car really easily, or you could take it to your room really easily. You can't do that in this convention center because your hotel is connected by a skywalk, and it is connected by a skywalk at least, so that's a positive there. But you still have to do a lot of walking to your hotel room, which usually means, because you're staying the night if you have a hotel room or not, depending on where you're parking in the city, you have a while to walk to your car. So that means you really don't want to do any big purchases for big items until kind of the end of the day, or you know you're leaving, or you know that you don't mind walking back and forth to the car. I know there's a lot of concern from people who say, you know, the city of Milwaukee isn't safe. People were looking at me when I was loading stuff into my car. I'm worried about getting break-ins. It's really going to happen anywhere, but that ease is gone. Thankfully for me, I don't mind walking. I don't mind getting the exercise. So at the end of the day, it's not a deal breaker. It's just something to keep in mind. If you're by yourself and you want to get something big, just be prepared to do a little trek before it's safely tucked away somewhere. All right, do not adjust your camera, because I am in fact closer to the camera, and the reason I'm doing that is because it is time for pickups. Everyone wants to see my pickups from the Midwest Gaming Classic. That's kind of the deal, so why don't we go through them? And actually, I'll show you the first one, and that is this t-shirt here. Very cool, broken out look at the Super NES controller as far as how everything is attached. Very neat looking. Decided to pick that up. I think it was like 2 t-shirts for 30 bucks. I also picked up the Game Boy version of that, which is pretty sweet. Always neat having some alternate video game tees other than the regular character graphic and stuff like that. Next thing we're going to talk about is Retro Player. See if we can get the reflection off that. Retro Player Enthusiast Guide. So this particular preview issue, it's a limited edition 20-page preview, is featuring Thunder Force 3, and this will have different game strategies for a variety of different games. This cover issue obviously covering Thunder Force 3. Now, this is by the same guys that do, I think it's the Little Players magazine or Little Gamers. I'll put a link in the description below. That magazine is really cool, has a great layout, looks fantastic, but not having any little kids of my own, I wasn't really interested in picking it up. This, however, is right up my alley. The inside of it is beautiful. The design looks great. So I'm hoping these guys do more issues. And I think the actual print version here at the show was limited to 100. So that's kind of cool. I did get a card with this, and this says that you can get a free digital preview version of this. I don't know if my camera's going to focus on that, so I'm going to read this to you. Free digital preview. Get our limited edition 20-page preview PDF at www.shopretroplayer.com. So check that out. Like I said, very cool design. I hope it takes off because I'd love to have another magazine that focuses on strategies, cheat codes, and just goes back to that retro period. No one's completely got it right yet. What should we do next for pickups? Why don't we deal with complete in-box carts. For the Sega Master System, we've got Thunderblade here. Always collecting stuff for the Sega Master System. Decent port I hear. Speaking of ports, this is Galaxy Force 2 for the Sega Genesis. I've really been on a Genesis kick lately, folks, trying to increase my Genesis library. Before I went to the Midwest Gaming Classic this year, I tried a bunch of Genesis titles that I haven't either played in a while or new stuff that I just wanted to check out. And unfortunately, the 10 titles I added were the games that are like really expensive. Like I wanted a copy of Elemental Master. No way in hell I'm paying 250 bucks for that. Even worse, Rolling Thunder 3 I wanted a copy of. 100 bucks was as low as I could find it. Nope, not happening. I do have a copy of Super Mario 3, but I wanted a boxed version of it. A lot of people selling the clean boxed copy without the challenge label for more money. This was like 25 bucks, I believed. I just wanted a complete and boxed version with the manual and everything. I don't care about the challenge set tape on it. Loose cart stuff, we have X-Mutants here. If Mr. Camera will focus, I don't know if he will or not. But decent Genesis game. This was one of those that I played on my flash cart before I went to MGC. The price was right. It was like $2-3 bucks. Side-scrolling action game, I guess based on a Malibu Comics thing. Kind of weird. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Fun little platformer. I enjoyed it. CD games. Let's talk CD games. A couple Import Saturn games for Import Bukin when it comes back from hiatus, and that is Gun Griffin. Next up is Virtual Cop. I apologize, I see the reflection, but you'll get it. Virtual Kids. Last Gladiator. And finally, ooh, there's the spot. There we go. Ys 1, 2, and 3, the Japanese versions on the TURBOGRAFX-CD PC Engine Turbo Duo. I do have the American versions of that stuff, but I wanted to get it basically because I'm just a huge Ys fan, and I couldn't pass it up. It was like $5 for both of them, or $5 each for both titles. And looks like we're kind of on my last pickup. Actually, I see one more pickup, and we'll get to this one. This is a certain NES guidebook by Pat Contry, otherwise known as Pat the NES Punk. This is something I've wanted to pick up for a while, just never had a chance to. Saw it at the show, decided to pick it up, and don't regret it. This thing is thick as hell and has some really great pictures, some fun reviews. It's a real easy guidebook to go through and find everything you need to know about an NES title. Highly recommended, and my last pickup for Midwest Gaming Classic 2018 is this guy right here. This cool little shadow box desktop print here of Castlevania. Gotta have my Castlevania. Pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. And that's it. That is all my pickups for the Midwest Gaming Classic 2018. Not a ton of stuff, definitely not as much as I used to buy, but prices have just changed so much, and I'm a little stingier on paying high value for that, even after wheeling and dealing with the vendors. So that's pretty much everything for that. And before I go, the one last thing I want to say is it's always great going to the Midwest Gaming Classic and seeing your friends and fellow gamers. And Emmy, as well as Marcus, were able to meet up with me, the rest of the Gamer Logic crew. We had a great time, had a fun time playing games, going through the vendor hall, getting some excellent barbecue from Doc's Smokehouse across the street from the Wisconsin Center, and having our fun little own after party, even though we were all beat at the end of the night. So always great seeing them. They always help out great with Gamer Logic, and I had a blast. So overall, would I go back to the Midwest Gaming Classic if it was at the Wisconsin Center? Yes, as long as the weather doesn't suck. And that's pretty much my review of the show. Hope you guys enjoyed watching, and until next time, take it easy.